What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking on the video. My name is Wombat. I've been a landlord in London for 20 years. This video is about getting your deposit back. Have you ever lost a deposit? Are you about to sign a rental contract? Do you want to know how deposits work? Do you want to know about the law and deposits? In this video, we're going to be talking about the law. We're going to be talking about how to get your deposit back. Yes, all of it. We're going to be talking about something called zero deposit schemes. Yes, that's right. It's possible to rent a property without having to pay one of these deposits. Sound great? Stick around. What about if you've been in a rental property and you thought, I'd like to paint a wall or just spruce it up a bit, do a bit of DIY, make it nicer? How can you do that without jeopardizing your deposit? Well, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do it without losing your deposit. Let's dive in. The first thing is the law. Okay, your landlord cannot charge you more than 5 weeks rent as a deposit. The only exception is if your annual rent is more than 50k, then it can go up to 6 weeks rent. By law, your landlord has to register your deposit with one of 3 schemes. You have the Deposit Protection Service, you have MyDeposits, and you have the Tenancy Deposit Scheme. Those are the only 3 schemes. You have 2 types of scheme. They work in different ways. The first type is what we call custodian, and that is when the landlord hands over the deposit to the scheme. They look after it. The other type is called insurance, and that's when the landlord holds on to your deposit. It's still registered with a scheme. The landlord will need to pay some sort of upfront premium, and that's ensuring your deposit is safe. For you, it doesn't make a difference which scheme it's in. As long as it's in a scheme, you're protected. You have the same level of protection. It doesn't matter if the landlord's got it or the scheme has it. It's exactly the same. So don't worry about it. Okay, what happens if the landlord doesn't protect it? If he doesn't protect it, guess what? You can sue him for up to 3 times the deposit. So it's not in his interest, because not only could you sue him, but he can't make a claim. If he tries to claim against you and it's not registered, you're going to sue him anyway. So he can potentially suffer damage to his property with no recourse to you for claim back on the damage. Okay, let's have an example. Let's say, for example, you pay a deposit over, it's £1,000. At the end of the tenancy, the landlord says, you've made £100 in damage, you've got to pay it. And either you say, yes, I damaged the property, I'm going to pay you the £100, here it is, you work it out. If you don't agree with the landlord, this is what we call a dispute. Now, in this case, if the landlord's holding your deposit, what the landlord has to do is send back the undisputed amount, the other £900. Send it straight back to you. The £100, if the landlord's holding it, he needs to send it to the scheme. If the scheme is holding your deposit, they will send you the 900, hold on to the 100, and then the landlord will have an opportunity to send in evidence to the scheme showing that in fact you have caused the damage that he or she claims. You will have the opportunity to prove, to show that you did not cause that damage. The scheme will take a look at both sets of evidence, and then they will decide. Their decision is binding. If they decide in your favor, you'll get your money back. If they decide in the landlord's favor, he will get the £100. I have seen in the past decisions go both ways. So schemes say, yes, there is a bit of damage. It's not all that. We're going to pay you 50 and you 50. It can happen like that sometimes. That's how it works. Getting your deposit back, well, it starts from day one or before day one. You have to make sure before you've got your keys, everything is documented and everything is correct. You've got 3 situations. Situation number 1 is when an inventory clerk goes in, does an inventory of everything. They're normally pretty good. Sometimes there can be some discrepancies. My advice is go through it very carefully. Take pictures as well. If there's a discrepancy, tell the clerk to change it, get the clerk to sign it. If they don't do it, don't sign anything. I was in a situation as a tenant, it was a Friday night, I was dying to get my keys because I had to move in there and then. I didn't have anywhere to stay. We were doing the inventory and some things weren't right. I said to the inventory clerk, we have to change these. He said, fine, we'll get them changed on Monday. I said, no, I want to move in now. He said, well, if you don't sign this the way it is, then you can't get your keys. I had to sleep in my car Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. It was no fun. I didn't have anywhere to shower. I was using the bathrooms in McDonald's. I was uncomfortable. On Monday morning, I went into the office and I was disheveled and I was just a mess. Finally, we got it sorted and they had changed the things and we could sign and I could get the keys. But my advice to you is have some leeway. So don't put yourself into a corner. Don't make it so you've absolutely got to move on the day that you think you got to move, because things can go wrong. You don't want to be pushed into a corner because some inventory clerk wants to get on with it. So give yourself a few more days in your old property or have some backup somewhere that you can stay just in case you can't go in on the day you think you're going in, because if you don't, then it can cost you a few £100 at the other end. Okay, let's go on to situation number two. Situation number two is when the landlord's done the inventory. In this case, landlords are a little bit more flexible. They haven't got a client, if you like. The buck stops with them. So if you see something that's different, you'll see it. The landlord will see it. You can say to the landlord, please let me write it in. Please sign it to agree that yes, it is this condition. He or she can see it. They're going to sign it. Have everything there. Still do the photos, take pictures of everything and send them in to the landlord and the agent at the beginning before you get your keys. The same with situation one. Always take pictures and send them in before you get your keys, because you can refer back to them at the end of the tenancy. Situation three, no inventory at all. Yes, there are landlords out there that rent properties and don't even bother to do an inventory. So what do you need to do? You really need to do your own inventory. Get it typed up. At least at the minimum, you need to do a photo inventory, pictures of everything, in particular, things that aren't right, things that are under par, things that aren't clean, things that are damaged. Get them in pictures, send them to the landlord and the agency if there's an agency involved. Then at the end of the tenancy, you'll have your proof. You'll be able to substantiate any claims that you make that you actually have not damaged the property in any way. Okay, wouldn't it be great if you didn't have to pay a deposit at all? Well, there are some things called zero deposit schemes. And what they enable you to do is rent a property without paying any deposit. How do they work? Well, in general, they work like this. You as a tenant will have to pay some upfront fees. Normally, they're about a week's rent. And then normally there's an admin fee of about £50, and then there's an annual fee. Normally it's about £20. So in the beginning, first year, you pay a week's rent, £50 admin, £20. Year two, you should only pay the £20, and continuing to keep this thing insured. Now, the schemes are in reality insurance companies. So they're protecting the landlord. Let's say, for example, you get into arrears with your rent, the scheme will pay out to the landlord. They guarantee a few weeks rent. It can be 6 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, which actually is better than the landlord holding a deposit because he's got a larger guarantee. They guarantee, just in case you make some damage to the property, it will still go to a scheme if there's a dispute and you say you haven't made the damage. But if the scheme finds that you have made the damage and you don't pay for it, then the zero deposit scheme will pay out to the landlord. Now, just because the scheme insures the landlord against any loss, it doesn't mean to say you're not liable. You're still liable. So if you get into arrears, the landlord gets paid, but you've still got to make it up to the scheme. If you don't, it's exactly the same as not paying your credit card. You're going to get a CCJ and you're going to get bad credit. The same if you owe your landlord for damages. You don't pay to the scheme in the case that they've actually paid out to your landlord. Again, you'll get a CCJ, you get bad credit. It's not going to be good for your life going forward. Remember, the whole of our society is based on credit, having good credit. If you get bad credit, it's going to be very, very bad for you. Some other advice there, keep good credit. Okay, have you ever been in your apartment or your rental place and thought, you know what, I'd really love to paint a wall or make something look a little bit nicer? Well, I've got a mate and he used to be a renter a few years ago, and every place he used to go into, the guy liked DIY, he'd do it up. He went into a place, he did the floor, he painted the walls, he got it looking really nice. He spent a few grand on it. Now, in the beginning, he'd actually agreed this with the landlord verbally. The landlord said, yeah, fine, do it, it's all good. At the end of the tenancy, guess what? The landlord came in, looked around and said it's completely different. It's going to cost us a couple of grand to sort this out, get it back to what it was. So my friend, not only did he lose a few grand in doing the place up, he lost his deposit, which was another few grand. My friend was fuming. Now, how could he have prevented that? Let's say, for example, you want to paint a wall in your property, in the rental property. What you need to do is you need to get it agreed with your landlord and get it in writing. So the first thing is get it agreed verbally. Then what you need to do is take a picture of the wall, for example, in the condition that it's in. Say exactly what you want to do and get that agreed in writing. Don't do anything until your landlord writes you back, emails you back. Once you've got that email, great, you can get to work, but make sure you do a good job. If you're painting a wall, don't let it splash on the floor or the radiators. If you do a bad job, you can still be liable for damage to other parts of the property. Once you've done a good job, get it in pictures, send it to your landlord, tell your landlord, look, we've done it, this is the condition now. Great, your landlord's going to write back, thank you. Normally you'll find that landlords will actually pay for materials. Well, in any case, I would ask your landlord. Myself as a landlord, if a tenant wants to do a bit of painting or make something actually nicer than it is, then I'll normally offer to, pay for the materials, because they're actually, doing the work for me, really, for free. So always ask your landlord if he or she is willing to pay for the materials. If you've got any value out of this video, give it a like. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. I've really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. I thank you. I hope to see you real soon. Thank you.